मम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So now we are actually seeing this aspect of Brahmaji is explaining to Narada about the creation. So Narad Muni had asked about three important things: the living entities, the material nature, and the controller of both. And then he also put a question saying, no, to Brahma that you seem to be in control, you seem to be in having like a lot of power and things like that. But still, I think that there is somebody more powerful than you, and somebody who's master of you is there. So can you explain about those things? So Brahmaji is explaining all those things, and we are in middle of that. So this is text 15 of 5th chapter of 2nd canto. Narayana Paraveda Deva Narayanangajah Narayana Paraloka Narayana Paramakaha. The Vedic literatures are made by and are meant for the Supreme Lord. The demigods are also meant for serving the Lord as parts of His body. The different planets are also meant for the sake of the Lord, and different sacrifices are performed just to please Him. Right? So in Bhagavad Gita, we see Bhoktaram Eknatapasham. So Bhokta means enjoyer. The Lord is the enjoyer of everything that exists. So in that way, we can see that no, the Lord is the no, for Him only, like the Vedic literatures are existing, and for Him only, like demigods are existing, and for Him only various sacrifices are existing, and everything is existing just for pleasing the Supreme Lord, right? So let's read the purport. According to Vedanta Sutra, Shastra Yonitvat, the Supreme Lord is the author of all revealed scriptures, and all revealed scriptures are for knowing the Supreme Lord. So this is a very important sutra, that is Shastra Yonitvat. So like only by the Vedic literatures we can actually understand Him, and it is only the Supreme Lord who has given all the scriptures. So that is Vedesha Sarver Ahameva Vedya Vedantavid Vedantakrit Vedavit Eva Chaham. So this Lord Krishna confirms this particular, actually Vedanta Sutra becomes the basis of any philosophical understanding. So as we had discussed many times before, after the Vedavyas, he wrote all the Vedic literatures. Then the Upanishads are considered to be like higher literatures, because they don't talk about the material world and the material, what is it, sense gratification and things like that. Upanishads are more towards realization of the Supreme Lord, or realization of the Brahman, you can say. And then the summary of all the Vedic literatures is put down as Vedanta Sutra. As the name says, it is a sutra. Sutra means it's just formulas. No, it is not the elaboration. So in Bhagavad Gita, we can see most of these things which are mentioned in the Vedanta Sutra has explanation to it. So that's why Bhagavad Gita is considered to be one of the very, very prominent literature. So as we had discussed sometimes, like there is three things that are there, which is called as Prasthanatraya. So that is the three very important conclusions, three very important what is that standard of Vedic literatures, or those three books are considered to be the prominent books amongst all the Vedic literatures. That is Vedanta Sutra, then Upanishads, and the this one Bhagavad Gita. So these three are considered to be even amongst, like, Bhagavatam. We understand as devotees, we understand Bhagavatam is very important, but then even people who are not uh, devoted to the Lord, even people who are not devotees of the Lord, who are trying to like attain the Brahman realization and things like that, even they accept these three things as authority. Vedanta Sutras, Upanishads, all the Upanishads, and then the this one Bhagavad Gita. So these three things are considered to be authority in the Vedic literatures. And here we see that Shastra Yonitvad. So one of the Vedanta Sutra is mentioned here, and this particular this one is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Vedanta with Vedavit, Vedanta Krit Vedavit Eva Chaham, right? So like this is Lord Krishna is very clearly saying that I am the author of the Vedas and I am to be known by the Vedas, and that has been supported by Bhagavatam also here, right? The Supreme Lord is the author of all revealed scriptures, and all the revealed scriptures are for knowing the Supreme Lord. Veda means knowledge, and that leads, Veda means knowledge that leads to Lord. The Vedas are made just to revive the forgotten consciousness of conditioned souls, and any literature not meant for reviving God consciousness is rejected at once by Narayana Para devotees. Narayana Para means like those who are attached to the Supreme Lord Narayana, and those who are no pure devotees of the Lord. So they don't take interest in no literature which is not taking a person closer to God consciousness. Such deluding books of knowledge, not having Narayana as their aim, are not at all knowledge, but are playgrounds for crows who are interested in the rejected refuse of this world. So Vayasam Tirtham, that is mentioned as Vayasam Tirtham. So this is mentioned in, I think it is mentioned in the 5th chapter of 1st canto. Anybody can quickly search out this sloka and then the next sloka. No, that will be nice. The next sloka is Tadvag Visarga Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishlokam Abadhyavatapi Namananantasya Yashonti Khaniyat Shinvanti Gayanti Grananti Sadhava. So these two are very, very important slokas. So anybody can search out and quickly post that in the chat group. It will be nice. So if you have difficulty in finding the preface to the Srimad Bhagavatam, every book, every volume of Srimad Bhagavatam has the preface of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the last portion of the preface has the second sloka that I mentioned, the Tadvag Visargo sloka, and one sloka before that it will be this Vayasam Tirtham, that will be mentioned. So these two are very, very important slokas, and in the Vayasam Tirtham sloka it is mentioned about those literatures which talk about so many different subject matters, and which doesn't speak anything about the Supreme Lord. It is considered to be Vayasam Tirtham. Vayasam Tirtham means a holy place, and Vayasam means crows. So it is a holy place for the crows. Or here Prabhupada is mentioning, they are but are the playgrounds for crows. The crows who are interested in the rejected refuse of the world, right? So this is a very, very important analogy. So that which is truth, that which is the absolute truth is the Supreme Lord, right? So anything that exists in this world has its connection with the Supreme Lord. As we had discussed many times, everything is composed of the energy of the Supreme Lord. But if I'm not able to have a direct perception or connection with the Supreme Lord, so or I'm writing a literature, or I'm having something, some discussion which doesn't have its aim as the Supreme Lord, so then it becomes a playground for crows, who are interested in the rejected refuse of this world, right? So in that way, that is mentioned here. And then the further, any book of knowledge, science or art must lead to the knowledge of Narayana. Okay, so this is 1, 5, 10, and 11. So can you, Avinashpu, can you like open that and copy paste this one, that sloka and translation alone in the chat box? That will be nice. Okay, so we will continue. Any book of knowledge, science or art, must lead to the knowledge of Narayana, otherwise it must be rejected. This is the way of advancement of knowledge. The supreme worshipable deity is Narayana. The demigods are recommended secondarily for worship in relation to Narayana, because the demigods are assisting hands in the management of the universal affairs. As the officers of a kingdom are respected due to their relation to the king, the demigods are worshipped due to their relation to the Lord. Without the Lord's relation, worship of the demigods is unauthorized, avidhi purvakam, just as it is improper to water the leaves and branches of a tree without watering its root. Therefore, the demigods are also also dependent on Narayana. So this is very important, this one. Many times people kind of criticize ISKCON, saying that, oh, these people, even they go up to the extent of saying, oh, these are all like Christians within our Hindu society. Why they call it like that? Because no, you go to the ISKCON, then they will say that no, you should not worship any other devata and things like that. And just like Christians do, they say that no, you should not worship all the Hindu gods and you should worship Jesus, like that. So in the same way, these people also will say like, no, don't worship any of the devatas, worship only Krishna. So like we have to understand in the proper perspective what are these things, what we are trying to do. So all like as the time progresses, we are inventing newer and newer devatas, like who are not even there in the 33 crore different devatas. So any form that we imagine becomes one devata actually. So and like also the aspect of this devata worship or demigod worship has to be very, very clearly understood. So the scriptures have elaborate description of how any living entity can become a devata. Like for example, Indra, if you want to become Indra, if you perform 100 Ashwamedha Yagyas, then you can get the position of Indra. And in the same way, like we have many different rules and regulations for becoming these devatas. And if we what is that, here it's very clearly mentioned that these devatas are meant for like assisting the Lord in the universal management, right? So that is their position. And here very nice parallel that Prabhupada is bringing in. As the officers of a kingdom are respected due to their relation to the king, that is there, this one. So if the office, there are many departments are there, in our modern scenario, we can see we have electricity department, water department, we have many departments in the government is there, and there are many responsible officers are there, and they are respected as government officers. They are respected very nicely. But then they cannot themselves autonomously say like, no, I am the all in all soul of this whole bureaucracy or things like that. So they cannot tell that they are the supreme. Or if they receive the money of the people, common people, and then if they put it on their pocket, then they are called as then they are accused of taking bribe, right? So now when we worship the devatas, it's Krishna clearly mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, if we worship the devatas thinking that they themselves are supreme, so then that is called avidhi purvakam. But then the devata worship is completely rejected. No, it is there. The demigods are recommended secondarily for worship in relation to Narayana. So that means even if traditionally, if we see, even if a devata is worshipped, first Vishnu is invoked, and then through Vishnu only we can worship any devata. And Krishna says that, no, why are you going through such a long cut way? Everybody's goal is to worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu. and no, that is a proper way. So even demigod worship also, proper demigod worship means only through Vishnu and not directly, right? So when people understand that the demigods themselves are like, ultimate and things like that, so then that is called avidhi purvakam, and that is very clear in the Bhagavad Gita. So people who accuse of why we have to reject all the other devatas and things like that, so they have a very, very little knowledge of the scriptures, and they have a sentimental attachment. Hinduism means like there are so many gods and all gods are the same. No, this is like completely a khichdi kind of an idea, and that is not supported by the scriptures. No, right now what we have is, in the name of Hinduism, like we have some what is that? Like etomat tatopat, no, some khichdi of everything. No, whatever anybody is saying, like everything is right. No, that is Hinduism that people want to have. So, but then no, we need to go by the scriptures. No, that is when it will have some solid this one. So now in the name of Hinduism, what has happened? People are keeping any deity or any form of whatever they call. So they're keeping that, and then doing sense gratification to the fullest extent. No, that's what people are actually doing these days. So this is a very, very important thing that needs to be understood. Just a minute, the screen is on. Okay, so very important principle that needs to be understood, that the demigod worship, not bypassing the Supreme Lord, is avidhi purvakam. Avidhi purvakam means less intelligent, or it is it is definitely like it is not proper. It is an improper way of worshipping. And here Prabhupada is giving this one analogy of tree and the root. Yatha tarur mula nisechanena tripyanti yat skanda bhujopashaka pranopaharat yate indriyenam tataiva sarvarahanam achyutejya. So this is a very important example wherein offering the water to the root is Vishnu, and when we offer the water to the root, tataiva sarvarahanam achyutejya, that takes care of worshipping all the devatas, right? So even if we worship one of the devatas, there are 33 crore, there are other devatas are not worshipped. So then, sometimes people ask that if we don't worship a demigod, so then if the demigod becomes angry on us, then what will happen? So then that means, all 33 crore can we worship? It is not possible. So that is why we have to worship the Supreme Lord, and He's like the root. And by watering the root, Tataiva Sarvarhanam Achyutejya, make all the aradhanas of all the devatas is performed just by performing the worship to Narayana, right? So that is the meaning of it. And all the devatas are also existing for assisting Narayana only. And they will be very happy if we worship Narayana, right? So they will not be, it is never a problem, if we worship Narayana. And then we see the lokas, different lokas or the different planets are attractive because they have different varieties of life and bliss, partially representing Satchidananda Vigraha. Everyone wants the eternal life of bliss and knowledge. In the material world, such an eternal life of bliss and knowledge is progressively realized in the upper planets, but after reaching there, one is inclined to achieve further progress along the path back to Godhead. So now we see this Satchidananda. The Sat means eternity, Chit means knowledge, and Ananda means the bliss. So these three things are there. So Sat, eternity. So now in this material world, we see we are challenged by death. We are challenged that we may live for 50, 100 years or maybe like that. So, but then after that we have to leave the body. But then if we go to the higher planets, in the heavenly planets, the lifetime duration is quite long. And then even if we go higher than that, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka and all, the lifetime is even more higher. And even if we go higher than that, Brahmaloka, the lifetime is really very huge, right? So this Satchidananda is experienced to some extent or progressively increasing in the material world. No, it's not that completely a person will not die, but their duration of life increases if they go to the heavenly planets and upper planetary systems. So, but then after going to the summit of it, that is after going to the Brahmaloka, a person may feel that, I need to progress towards the spiritual world, and that inclination actually he gets. So why take such a long span? In this earthly life, we have one life. And then if I have to go to the heavenly planets, I have to have another life. And then from there, if I have to go to Maharloka, Janaloka, one lives. And then finally, if I have to go to Brahmaloka, I have to perform so many lives of tapasya to go to Brahmaloka. For that, directly I can worship the Supreme Lord and go back to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. So that is the easiest thing. Why to go all the way up till Brahmaloka in one life, changing one planet, and then aiming at Vaikuntha. So that is like long process. And what is a guarantee in the whole process? I will not commit any mistake, and I will not fall in any intermediate stage. So that is also not guaranteed. So in that way, we see that it is intelligence is to take up to the worship of the Supreme Lord directly. Right. So we'll further continue. Duration of life with a proportionate quantity of bliss and knowledge may be increased from one planet to another. One can increase the duration of life to thousands and hundreds of thousands of years in different planets, but nowhere is there eternal life. But one who can reach the highest planet, that of Brahma, can aspire to reach the planets of spiritual sky where life is eternal. Therefore, the progressive journey from one planet to another culminates in reaching the supreme planet of the Lord, Maddhama. Maddhama is like, it's Krishna's words. Mat means like my, and Dhamma means the abode or the place of existence. So the Lord is telling that, please come back to Maddhama, like, to my abode, like that. So where life is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge, Satchidananda. All different kinds of sacrifice are performed just to satisfy Lord Narayana with a view to reach him. And the best sacrifice recommended in this age of Kali is Sankirtan Yajna, the mainstay of the devotional service of a Narayana Para devotee. Right? So this is the Sankirtan Yajna is the primary Yajna that is performed in Kali Yuga, and we have seen that many times that how this is the only thing that can be performed properly, and this is the only thing that is asked of us by the Lord in the scriptures. Right? Text 16. This set of slokas are very nice. It has so many times Narayana like that. It's very nice slokas. Narayana paro yogo, Narayana param tapa, Narayana param jnanam, Narayana paragatihi. All different types of meditations or mysticism are meant for realizing Narayana. All austerities are aimed at achieving Narayana. Culture of transcendental knowledge is for getting a glimpse of Narayana. And ultimately, salvation is entering the kingdom of Narayana. It's so Narayana paragatihi. So that is the ultimate destination. Gati means destination, and Narayana para. So like that is the ultimate destination that a person can have. Okay. So in meditation, there are two systems of yoga, namely Ashtanga Yoga and Sankhya Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is practice in concentrating the mind, releasing oneself from all engagements by regulative process of meditation, concentration, sitting postures, blocking the movements of the internal circulation of air, etc. So this is basically the Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dhyana, Dharana, and Samadhi. So this steps, Prabhupada is giving some English names for that. And Sankhya Yoga is meant to distinguish the truth from ephemerals. But ultimately, both systems are meant for realizing the impersonal Brahman, which is but a partial representation of Narayana, the personality of Godhead. We have, so here we see that Prabhupada is telling both Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, or Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. Both of them are pointing towards the destination of the Brahman. So sometimes we say, okay, Ashtanga Yoga points to Paramatma realization, but still it is a partial realization of the Supreme Lord. So effectively, here Prabhupada is telling that this is all partial. Partial understanding of the Supreme Lord. Okay, so as we have explained before, the impersonal Brahman effulgence is only a part of the personality of Godhead. Impersonal Brahman is situated on the person of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahmanohi pratishtaham, so that we saw yesterday. And as such, Brahman is the glorification of the personality of Godhead. This is confirmed both in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Matsya Purana. Gati refers to ultimate destination. No, especially the word paragati is used. No, that means ultimate destination, or the last word in liberation. So, last word in liberation, there are three things that are there. So, one is the what is it? Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam ijnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabdate. So that means vadanti means to speak. No, vadanti tat tattva vidas. No, like who are speaking. Tattva with means one who is the knower of the things, and tattva means the supreme Lord, or the absolute truth. No, is called as tattva. So the vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam. No, like all the learned people, all the transcendental people, they all speak about that supreme Lord or that supreme absolute truth as what? Brahma iti Bhagavan, Brahmeti Bhagavan, sorry, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti sabdate. So that is, they call that as, some of the transcendentalists call that absolute truth as Brahma iti. No, it is Brahman. And then some of the transcendentalists, they call that absolute truth as Paramatma iti. No, it is the Paramatma. And then the other transcendentalists, they call that non-dual, absolute truth as the supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, or Narayana, or Vishnu. So in this way, like three different kinds of this one is there. So the final word or the last word in liberation. So these are three kinds of liberation: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So in that, the last word is what? Bhagavan. That is why it is mentioned as Narayana Paragati. That is, he is the ultimate destination for those who are aiming at liberation, right? So that is the way, like, it is put. Gati here refers to the last word in liberation, right? So oneness with the impersonal Brahma Jyoti is not ultimate liberation. Superior to that is sublime association of the personality of Godhead in one of the innumerable spiritual planets in Vaikuntha sky. Therefore, the conclusion is that Narayana, or the personality of Godhead, is the ultimate destination of all kinds of yoga systems as well as all kinds of liberation, right? So he is the ultimate destination. So after that, if you ask, like, is there anything more? No, it's nothing. No, that's the end of it. So that's the ultimate destination. So if we go to Brahman, and then if we ask, like, is there anything more? Yeah, Paramatma is there. If you have the Paramatma realization, that is the Lord as a controller and manager of this world. So is it all? No, it is not all. This is just his, his insignificant energies can handle all these things. What is that Lord actually doing, and what is the Lord actually wanting to, what is his private things? So the private thing is the Vaikuntha, and that is the ultimate destination or ultimate thing that the Lord actually values for. So in that way, like, we can see that all yoga systems, if we go progress in any of the yoga systems, so the ultimate destination after which nothing else exists is the attainment of the lotus feet of Narayana, right? So text 17. Tasyapi dushtar ishasya kūtastasya kilatmanah srijami srishtoham ikshayaiva bichoditah. Inspired by him only, I discover what is already created by him, that is Narayana. Under his vision, as the all-pervading super soul, and I also am created by him only, right? So this is a very nice, this one Brahmaji is telling, inspired by him only, like only by the grace of the Lord, I am able to discover what he is able to discover, that which is already been created by Lord Narayana. That is the way, like, Brahma is putting here, right? And under his supervision, under his vision as all-pervading super soul, right? So under the supervision of the Supreme Lord as the Paramatma, I am able to work on that. And then I myself, I am created by him only. That's like Narayana is the source of me. Brahma is telling. So even Brahma, the creator of the universe, admits that he is not the actual creator, but is simply inspired by Lord Narayana, and therefore creates under his superintendence those things already created by him, the super soul of all living entities. This is a very, very important understanding. In fact, Krishna also mentions in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he tells that no, already these people are killed. No, already these people are killed, and none of them are going back home. And if you want, you fight and you take the credit. No, otherwise, anyways, like, no, I have decided this and I have already settled it. No, nobody of them is going back to their homes. So in that way, like, no, Krishna actually puts it in that this one. So actually speaking, the real killing is done by Krishna himself. So there is one story about a person called Barbaric. So Barbaric, he's I don't know, he's famous in the North India and all. So he is supposed to see the battle of Kurukshetra, or he was supposed to take part in the battle of Kurukshetra. But then before he reached to the battle of Kurukshetra, somehow I don't remember the story exactly. So his head was cut, and then he got a benediction that no, at least he want to see this one battle of Kurukshetra, and he was given life, that no, he can just as a head alone, no, he can exist there and he can see the battle. And in the end of Kurukshetra war, so people had approached him and then asked him that what happened in the Kurukshetra war, what did you see? No, his head was kept on top of a hill, and he could able to see the whole battlefield arena. And he told, I could able to see only one thing, that everywhere Lord Sudarshan Chakra was going and killing everyone. No, that's the only thing that I could able to see. So in that way, we can see that all that is being done through us is also effectively done by the Supreme Lord. And then he just gives a perception to us that we could able to do something. So effectively we see that Prakrite Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvasaha Ahankara Vimudatma Kartahamiti Manyate. That means the material nature is driving everything in this world. And then only out of ahankar, only out of a sense of false ego, I am the doer. No, I think that I have done everything. No, but actually it is the intelligence is given by the Lord, the energy is given by the Lord. The material elements, this earth, water, fire, air, ether, belongs to the external energy of the Lord. And that external energy, Daivi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya, Mameve Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. So the Lord says this external energy, which is comprising of the three modes of nature and earth, water, fire, air, ether, all these things are perfectly working under my direction. So I have in my body, some piece of earth, water, fire, air, ether, and it is not that under my direction this piece of body is working. I desire and the Lord sanctions, and according to the sanction of the Lord only everything happens, right? So in this way, the whole thing is actually created by the Lord. So now Brahma is having a very, very wonderful realization here. I'm just inspired by the Lord, and then I'm just seeing that how the Lord is so wonderfully creating everything. Though Brahma is involved in creation, Brahma is personally creating everything, but still he is able to see that I am just an instrument. I have been used by the Lord for this creation, right? So this is a very, very wonderful realization that Brahma is having about the Supreme Lord, right? So, okay, two identities of soul, the super soul and the individual soul, are admitted to be living, admitted to be in the living entity. Even by the greatest authority of universe, the just a minute, of the universe, the super soul is the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, whereas the individual soul is the eternal servitor of the Lord. The Lord inspires the individual soul to create what is already created by the Lord, right? So, if I am building a building, it is not that key, I have made this whole thing. So I had a desire, and then the Lord is actually, inspiring me to do a particular thing, and according to the three modes of nature, and finally a building actually manifests. But actually, in the conception, in the background, it's Lord's plan, and Lord actually makes it according to tailor-made to our desire, right? So it is not just because it's Lord's plan. No, we cannot say that it is the desire of the Lord. No, desire of the Lord, that prevails in the a spiritual world. In the material world, no, it is what is that? Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. So like he is delivering the what is that? Whatever the different living entities are desiring, no, that is what he is delivering, no, to them. So it is now, for example, like we have so much of technological advancement, and we have so many modern amenities and things like that. So like sometimes we may think that it is all human brain, right? So human brain has created all these things, and it's wonderful intelligence, and going forward the humans may find something more wonderful. No, that is not the way we see that. It is the Lord's this one. If I have a desire to live such a materialistic life, Lord has already a pre-planned system of that materialistic life. He will just deliver it to us. No, it is not that he like no, I can, with my tiny brain, I can actually create something very wonderful, and which even the Lord has not thought about. No, that's not possible. The Lord, whatever I am able to think, whatever I am able to do, it is all what is that within the, it's a subset of Lord's, this one, Lord's thought process, or it's a subset of Lord's plans and things like that. So in that way, like we can see that nothing new or nothing that innovative can be created which the Lord doesn't know. No, in fact, it is mentioned here. This is a very, very nice point to ponder about. So the Lord inspires the individual soul. The Lord inspires the individual soul to create what is already created by Lord, and by the good will of the Lord, discoverer may sometime discoverer of something in the world is accredited as the discoverer. No, so it is like it's actually the Lord who has done this thing, right? So it is said that Columbus discovered the Western Hemisphere, but actually the tract of land was not created by Columbus. The vast tract of land was already there by the omnipotency of the Lord, of the Supreme Lord. And Columbus, by the dint of his past service unto the Lord, was blessed with the credit of discovering America. So any Janma Aishwarya Shutashri, so all these things, or any fame and name and things like that, it's because of some sukruti that person has got. He is able to get that kind of sukruti. If somebody is famous, like Columbus is still famous, he's there in our history books and things like that. How did he get such a name and fame? No, that means he has got some sukruti before. So that he had to get such a name and fame that people for many, many generations would read his name and things like that, right? Similarly, no one can create anything without the sanction of the Lord, since everyone sees according to his ability. This ability is also awarded by the Lord according to one's willingness to render service unto the Lord. One must therefore be voluntarily willing to render service unto the Lord, and thus the Lord will empower the doer in proportion to his surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord Brahma is a great devotee of the Lord. Therefore, he has been empowered or inspired by Lord to create such an universe as the one manifested before us. The Lord also inspired Arjuna to fight in the field of Kurukshetra as follows. Tasmat tvam uttishta yasho labasva jitva shatrun bhungshva rajyam samprudham mayai vaithe nihathat purvameva nimittamatram bhavasavya sashim. The battle of Kurukshetra or any other battle at any place or at any time is made by the will of the Lord, for no one can arrange such mass annihilation without the sanction of the Lord. The party of Duryodhana insulted Draupadi, a great devotee of Krishna, and she appealed to the Lord as well as to all the silent observers of this unwarranted insult. Arjuna was then advised by Lord to fight and take credit. Otherwise, the party of Duryodhana would be killed anyway by the will of the Lord. Right? So, if even Arjuna would have not killed this one, or Arjuna would have not fought, still Krishna has already decided that because he did this thing to Draupadi, I am going to wipe off all the Kaurava clan. So that is already settled by the Lord. So here it is mentioned. So Arjuna was advised just to become the agent and take the credit for killing the great generals like Bhishma and Karna. Right? So in the Vedic writings, such as Katha Upanishad, the Lord is described as the Sarva Bhuta Antaratma. or the personality of Godhead who resides in everyone's body and who directs everything for one who is this soul surrendered unto him, right? So for a person who is completely surrendered to the Lord gives direct directions to him. And for a person who is not surrendered to the Lord, so the Lord still is present as the Paramatma, and then he gives inspiration and guidance according to the desire of the living entity, to enjoy this world, the sense gratification, right? Okay, so where did we leave? Okay, those who are not surrendered soul are put under the care of material nature, Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani, Yantra Rurani Mayaya. So, therefore, they are allowed to do things on their own account and suffer the consequences themselves, right? So, if the Lord is there as guiding force, so then he guides properly. He just guides. If the reins are given in his hand, till the time Arjuna was he was taking calls by himself, so Lord was responding to his queries accordingly. But then when Arjuna gave the complete control to Krishna, so then Krishna derived the whole discussion, right? So that is a very important thing. So here, for surrendered soul, Lord directs everything, for them. But for souls who are not surrendered, what happens? Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani. No, this Ishvara Sarva Bhutani, Hridadesha Arjuna Tishtati. So for all the living entities, I reside in their heart. No, Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudani Mayaya. And I direct the wandering of their, I direct their wandering through this material body, Yantra. This mission, the mission called the material body, which is made of Maya, which is made of the material nature. So I direct, this direction of the Lord and the direction of the Lord for surrendered soul is completely different. For surrendered soul, he takes complete charge. For the souls who are not surrendered, they say that, I want to enjoy the sense gratification. The Lord says, okay, fine, I'll arrange for it. And after doing that sense gratification, he's supposed to get some misery. Then the Lord arranges for that misery also. Everything what is there, the Lord says, if somebody asks the Lord, why have you given me this misery? Lord says you wanted to enjoy that, and this misery is part and parcel of it. So you have to have both of it. Don't accuse me. I am not in any way responsible to it. So you wanted it. I just facilitated it. And it's the part and parcel of that is this misery. And you have to go through that also, right? So in that way, the Lord actually takes his hands off, and then he says, okay, fine. Whatever you do, you just own it. That's all. If you want my guidance, you come to me, then I'll direct. I'll take charge and I'll direct. But then if you want to do as you want, still I will be there as your friend. I will always be there as your friend, as Paramatma, with you. And I will also go through whatever you're going through. But then, I cannot do much, because you are taking calls and you own it like that. That's the condition of the living entities in the material world, right? And devotees like Brahma and Arjuna do not do anything on their own account, but as fully surrendered souls, they always await indications from the Lord. Therefore, they attempt to do something which appears very wonderful to ordinary vision. One of the Lord's names is Urukrama. Urukrama means, or one whose actions are very wonderful, and are beyond the imagination of the living beings. So the actions of his devotees sometimes appear very wonderful due to the direction of the Lord, right? So this name Urukrama is awarded to the Lord, or it's Lord's name all the time. But then specifically, like when Lord Vamana, when he took when he measured the whole universe. So at that time, it was such a wonderful feat that nobody has ever before seen such an amazing thing, that the whole universe can be measured in one footstep. So that's really amazing feat. So that is something for that reason, Lord Vamana is called as Urukrama. But in general, the Lord's name is Urukrama. For example, he lifted the Govardhan hill. He killed many demons, which are very, very powerful. And this is all wonderful activities. So then we can actually call the Lord as Urukrama, one who is performer of many wonderful and unimaginable things, like that. And by the grace of the Lord, even the devotees sometimes can do wonderful acts. No, it is just the devotee is just an instrument in the hands of the Lord, right? So then the Lord may perform like many wonderful and very powerful activities through his devotees also, right? So, example, Lord Hanuman, no, he could able to do such Herculean tasks. No, it is sometimes described that no, the Lord himself, he kept himself in the position as Lord Ram, wherein he needed assistance to cross over the this one ocean. But then his devotee Hanuman, he didn't needed any assistance. He could just leap over and then just go to the other side of to the Lanka. But even then, no, Hanuman was very, very humble enough, and he was knowing that it is all by the grace of the Lord, and I could able to do such wonderful things. Even no, Lord Ram is showing himself that no, I'm just an ordinary person. Like an ordinary person. He is acting, and then he needs a bridge to cross. But still, Hanuman is never puffed up. No, still Hanuman is never thinking, hey, like what kind of a Lord is he? No, what I am able to do that much also he is not able to do. So he's not thinking in that way. No, he is very, very clear. The Lord has a particular pastime now, and he wants to do it in this way. No, but then I should always be conscious that I am able to get all this power only because that only because by the grace of Lord Ram. So that's the mood of a devotee of the Lord, right? So okay, so let's continue. Beginning from Brahma, the topmost intelligent living entity within the universe, down to the smallest ant, every living entity's intelligence is overseen by Lord, in his transcendental position as the witness of all actions. Upadrishta and Anumanta. Upadrishta means like he is also the witness, no Upadrishta. So, and then the Anumanta, the sanctioner of all the actions of this world. So, like Bhagavad Gita describes, in fact, Krishna says that I am Upadrishta and Anumanta, of all the living entities. So that's the function of the Paramatma, right? So the subtle presence of the Lord is felt by the intelligent man who can study the psychic effects of thinking, feeling, and willing, right? So this is the way, like all powerful things, right from Brahma to the smallest entity, everything is under the perfect control of the Lord. No, nothing is going out of control of the Lord. Okay, text 18. Okay, so we'll see this thing if it is. It's a small thing, and then we will discuss that sloka that Avinash Prabhu has posted here. So after this sloka, Sattvam Rajastama iti nirgunasya gunastraya sthiti sarga nirodeshu grihitha mayaya vibhoho. The Supreme Lord is pure spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities. Yet for the sake of creation of material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material mode of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance. Right. So here it's mentioned the Supreme Lord is completely pure. He's Satchidananda Vigraha. That means no matter can touch him. No, like goodness, passion, and ignorance can touch him. Right. So transcendental to all material qualities. And then yet for the sake of creation of material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance. So like Lord, he creates this material world of which has this three modes of nature just for the sake of the living entities. And then he just he's in charge of the material mode of goodness. The Vishnu is in charge of the material mode of goodness. So but then he's never contaminated by the modes. That's a very important thing. The Supreme Lord is a master of external energy manifested by three material modes, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. And as master of this energy, he is ever unaffected by the influence of such bewildering energy. The living entities, the jivas, however, are affected by the affected by or susceptible to being influenced by such modes of material nature. That is the difference between the Lord and the living entities. The living entities are subjected by those qualities, although originally the living entities are qualitatively one with the Lord. In other words, the material modes of nature, being products of the energy of the Lord, are certainly connected with the Lord, but the connection is just like that between the master and the servant. The Supreme Lord is the controller of the material energy, whereas the living entities who are entangled in the material world are neither masters nor controllers. No, we are neither the masters of the material energy, and we are neither the controller of the material energy. Right? Rather, they become subordinate to or controlled by such energy. Factually, the Lord is eternally manifested by his internal potency or spiritual energy, just like the sun and its rays in the clear sky. But at times, he creates the material energy as the sun creates a cloud in the clear sky. As the sun is ever increasingly unaffected by a spot of cloud, so also the unlimited Lord is unaffected by the spot of material energy manifested at times in the unlimited span of Lord's rays of Brahmajyoti. Right. So here it's this the famous example of the sun, cloud, and the observer. So the sun, it creates the clouds, and then for a person in the earth, he like sees that the sun is covered by the clouds. But then the sun is such a powerful entity, no cloud can cover the sun. Only our vision can be covered by the cloud, right? So here we see that the cloud is not a very powerful entity. That it is not any other entity. It is just has having a different origin other than sun. The sun only creates the cloud, and sun only covers it up. And if sun wants, the sun can easily clear up the cloud. No, that's the same example that is attributed to the Supreme Lord. The Lord is just like the sun, and he can create this illusion around him. He can create the illusion around him, but he will not be controlled by the illusion. Only we will be affected by the illusion, right? So this is one very, very important principle. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvatah. So tatva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti. So Arjuna, so like if we understand this much, that the Lord can never be touched by the material energy, if we understand this point deeply, we are going back to Vaikuntha. That is for sure. Because Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. If we know that the Lord's birth and activities are beyond the material nature, and he is never controlled by the material nature. Rather, he is the master of the material nature. That is like short, this one formula for us to get back to the spiritual world, right? So that's such a powerful thing it is. So now, okay, so we will kind of see these two slokas which are there in the chat box. This is like very, very important slokas. So if devotees like, they can memorize these slokas also. It says, Nayad Vachas Chitra Padam Hare Yasho Jagat Pavitram Pragranita Karhichit Tadvayasam Tirtam Ushanti Manasa Nayatra Hamsa Niramantushik Shaya. So it says that those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto the place of pilgrimage for crows. Since all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there, right? So all the literatures of this world which doesn't describe about the glories of the Lord, they are considered to be like this. They are considered to be the pilgrimage place for the crows. Like where do the cows congregate? Crows congregate. So crows will be there where the rejected waste is there, right? And they will not go to a clear water body and very serene environment and things like that. You will not find crows over there. Crows will be there only in filthy place. So that is the whole idea. The purity of any place is based on the presence of Lord Vishnu. And this text 11, this is the most famous sloka, and Prabhupada often quotes this sloka. And in preface to Bhagavatam, Prabhupada has written this, and in every single book of Bhagavatam, this sloka, it is there in the end of the preface, right? So Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishlokam Abhadyavatapi Namanantasya Yashon Kithaniyat Shrimanti Gayanti Grananti Sadhava. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Now, this is one aspect of Srila Prabhupada we can see in the translation. We can see that how Prabhupada is a very wonderful kavi, or a poet. We can see that poem not necessarily meaning that it should be in the form of a song or something like that. So poem can also be a very wonderfully worded prose, right? So here we see that it's mentioned. It's a very, very long line. It's one line actually. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of name, fame, form, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation. What is that creation? It is full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the misdirected lives of the world's impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. It's a very, very packed line, very amazing line that he mentions, that this Bhagavatam is meant to create revolution in the minds of the people. It is meant to create revolution in the impious lives of world's misdirected civilization, right? So that's the powerful, this one, that's the powerful effect that it has. Which kind of literature, especially Bhagavatam or any literature that is describing about the Supreme Lord, that can actually create revolution in the whole world, right? Such transcendental literature are, even though imperfectly composed, they may have some faults in them, or they may have some errors in them, but they are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest, right? So these two are very nice slokas, 1.5.10 and 1.5.11, right? So devotees, if they want, they can memorize this. So we will stop here, and we will meet again tomorrow. And meanwhile, the message about the children's program that I had circulated. So you can circulate to all your friends, relatives, colleagues, and different people, and then inspire them to take part in the programs. It is for all age groups and things like that. So try to spread the word around, and in that way people can take part in the Janmashtami celebrations, right? So thank you very much for participating. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. हरे कृष्णा.